Hello, everyone. We'll just wait one more minute before we get started this afternoon.
It's a beautiful sunny day out there. Thanks for tuning in to a webinar.
Hopefully, you're looking out at the sunshine.
Just looking at Caitlin's setting sun in her
I
background.
know, in rural Maine, ground mount. Then there's Ben too. All right, we'll get started. So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to PowerPath, a new way to pay for solar in Maine. My name is Caitlin Brook. I'm one of the co-owners at Revision Energy. And before I hand it over to Thomas Tudor, our main sales manager, I want to give a brief introduction to Revision for those of you who may be meeting us for the first time. Revision Energy is a employee-owned full-service solar company that provides a range of renewable energy solutions for homes and businesses, including solar, battery backup, heat pumps, and EV charging. And as a certified B Corp, we're on a mission to build energy independent and socially just electric future. Our branches are located in Portland and Montville, Maine, Brentwood and Enfield, New Hampshire, and Westfield and North Andover, Mass. So a few housekeeping notes. As Thomas goes through his presentation, feel free to add questions to the chat or use the Q&A feature. I will hold the questions until the end of the presentation, and Thomas can answer them during that portion. You'll also see one of our co-owners, Ben Mayer, who has worked on PowerPath, is here as well, and he can also be available to answer questions. If we don't get to your question or you want to talk about your specific situation, please feel free to reach out to Thomas or I. I will put our contact information in the chat. There will also be our contact information at the end, at the last slide. So now it is my pleasure to introduce my fellow co-owner, Thomas Tudor.
Thanks a lot, Caitlin. Appreciate you teeing this up and everybody for tuning in. I'm going to share my screen here and hide the, there we go. All right. So yeah, as Caitlin said, I'm Thomas Tudor. I'm the sales manager here in South Portland, and I'm lucky enough to have been with Revision for close to 11 years. And I've only really been excited about leases for the past year. So look forward to talking to you about why that is. Here is our agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about our employee-owned company, but then really get into the challenge and the opportunity presented us in this current time. Introduce you to Amicus Cooperative, Amicus Impact, and a new entity with the acronym RAIL. Then we're going to talk about exactly what Amicus PowerPath prepaid lease is and how it would work for homeowners. And a reminder at the end that we really have all of the different ways to go solar, regardless of how you choose to finance it. I really want to get into Q&A at the end, so I'm hoping to be less than 30 minutes here and look forward to seeing your questions typed into the chat, as Caitlin said, so we can get to those at the end. So Revision started back in 2003, up in the mid-coast. I actually grew up on Islesboro, an island in Penobscot Bay, where self-sufficiency and resiliency kind of part of island life. And my aunt and uncle live in Liberty, where Revision started. So I've known about Revision Energy for a long time and feel super grateful that I get to work alongside over 400 co-owners now. We became 100% ESOP in 2017. And as Caitlin mentioned, we started up there on the mid-coast, but we've got our company headquarters in South Portland, 2 locations in New Hampshire, and 2 in Massachusetts. So with that, we really serve all of New England, and we've installed over 20,000 projects to date, which is offsetting over 140,000 tons of CO2 annually and saving our customers over $70 million in energy bills every year. So really a ton of work that we have done, but there's so much more work to do out there. Um, we are talking about solar today, but we really offer all of the building blocks of the clean energy transition to help people kick their fossil fuel habits and get onto their clean electric counterparts. We've got about 1 billion fossil fuel machines in this country to be replaced, and we got to power that with clean energy. So today we're really honing in on the solar portion of that puzzle. There's many reasons why people choose to invest in solar at their house. Um, Three big buckets are smart investment, environmental impact, and the independence and resilience that it offers. Um, you can see the graph on the right represents an example solar project recently quoted with Amicus PowerPath, which provides a really low cost per kilowatt hour for 25 years worth of electricity, significantly lower than what CMP is charging today. And we expect those rates to continue going up. So it's really the beauty of a solar investment is that you're pre-buying your power and you pay a lot less that way. Environmental impact cannot be overstated. Reducing your carbon footprint by producing and using your own clean energy is really the future that we're working toward every day and need to get there as fast as possible for future generations. And then the independence and resilience is huge, for your local home, for your community, for our state, for our country. The more that we are producing our own energy and using it in electric machines, the more we have control over our energy future. And more folks are adding batteries to their homes that increases that resilience. And we're actually doing another webinar tomorrow on batteries if you're interested in tuning in for that. So today we're talking about solar financing, and really a big change occurred last summer when a bill was signed into law that took away the residential solar tax credit for systems completed in 2026 and beyond. So despite all of the amazing investment opportunities that solar represents, the upfront cost is obviously still a barrier for many folks. And there have been many complex financing options that have been created to help address that. One of the most popular in the country historically has been a 25-year traditional solar lease, um, which helps customers get into solar for no money up front. But those were really designed by financial institutions to benefit them long term, serving their interests as a financial institution. Um, and one of the beauties of a solar investment is that you're locking in your energy costs and they are going down over time as your neighbors are going up. And some of those traditional solar leases are benefiting those financial institutions over the long term and are not really, they're providing a small fraction of those benefits to the homeowner, but not as much as we would like. So the opportunity here is that solar tax credits still exist for commercial entities, just not for residential ones. People are still using electricity. I have 24 panels on my roof. I've got heat pumps that do my heating and cooling. My wife and I both drive Chevy Bolts, and we are using a lot of electricity, but we produce it ourselves, and we're not subject to the price shocks of a global fossil fuel system because of that. But energy costs have been incredibly inflationary and really crippling household budgets. And meanwhile, solar maintains the least expensive way to generate electricity in most of the world. And so Revision's mission to make life better by building our just and equitable electric future means we really have to be creative in this moment in time with the changing tax credit to figure out how to benefit New Englanders with solar investments as much as possible. So we're almost there to sharing the details about this new financing program, but it's important to understand one other organization that has been integral to developing it, which is Amicus Solar Cooperative. Revision was a founding member of Amicus in 2011, and it was really a solar buying cooperative, so we could pool our resources with other independent solar contractors and purchase solar panels, inverters, in a larger bulk order and therefore get the best possible pricing. That cooperative has grown to represent over 90 members with nationwide coverage, and there's just incredible experience in that group. Passionate, smart people around the country that are helping people with this clean energy transition. Amicus Solar Cooperative had a cousin called Clean Energy Credit Union that was created specifically to finance clean energy projects with solar loans. They also provide loans for heat pump projects, electric vehicles, etc. And many of our customers have used Clean Energy Credit Union. Another little background, Amicus also has a operations and maintenance cooperative. Really these are long-term investments, and we're sharing best practices and training to make sure that we're getting the most value out of these solar investments over their multi-decade life. And then the newest Amicus initiative is the Amicus Impact Cooperative. It is a residential finance public benefit corporation. It's 100% member owned by participating installer companies, which there are 12 currently, Revision being one of those 12. And the first financing program of Amicus Impact Cooperative is Amicus PowerPath. And I also just think it's important to note the scale here. If Amicus was a single company rather than a co-op, it would be the second largest PV installer in the US. So Revision super proud of the work that Amicus has done and the collaboration that we have worked on together to create Amicus PowerPath, which is a cooperative approach to residential solar finance that is simple, transparent, and built around the homeowner, not the fine print. So what really happens here, you learned about Amicus Impact. Amicus Impact and Revision created Revision Amicus Impact Leasing LLC, which has the funny acronym of RAIL. That is this new entity that will be the lessor, so it will hold the leases for this Amicus PowerPath product. And by doing so, it's able to claim the commercial tax credit or monetize that commercial tax credit and pass the benefits back to the customers of Revision Energy. Revision Energy will still maintain and build and maintain your solar project exactly as it would if you were paying for it through a different means. And while this looks complicated with 3 different entities and some complexity, it's still a lot simpler and straightforward and transparent than other solar leasing out there, which has multiple third-party owners and financial institutions behind the scenes that are bundling leases and selling them and, sort of the things that financial institutions do in the background, which is what we wanted to avoid by creating this project, passing the maximum benefit to homeowners with the creativity that was necessary here with the current tax credit situation. So, Amicus PowerPath prepaid lease. offers about a 25% discount off the project cost, depends slightly on system size. And what is happening is the homeowner is prepaying a solar lease upfront using their own funds or their own financing. If they had a home equity line of credit or other loan, they could pay for it that way as well. Um, Revision, Amicus, Impact Leasing, that's Rail, is owning that system for 5 years and covers any system maintenance. Rail monetizes that commercial tax credit and pays Revision Energy back for the upfront discount it gave to the homeowner. The homeowner takes full ownership of the system in month 61. That is after that 5 year period, which is an IRS rule that for someone to take the tax credit, they need to own that system for 5 years. So this is transferring ownership back to the homeowner at the soonest possible time so that the homeowner gets all that long-term wealth creation of owning solar with the lowest upfront cost. So after month 61, it looks exactly like a normal cash or loan solar project. The first 5 years, there's this added complexity in order to enable that 25% discount. So circling back, this Amicus PowerPath prepaid lease is built by a cooperative. That's totally unique in the market. There's no outside investors or banks. Rail, that Revision Amicus Impact Leasing, is the one who owns the system for the first 5 years. The system's still designed and installed to our own exacting specifications, serviced by our service team for 3 to 4 decades of clean energy production. All of that is the same as it would be for any financing route. And then because it's ours, we made it as to benefit the homeowner in the maximum possible way. And so we've got the best terms as far as other lease options out there. And in this changing dynamic world, if changes are necessary, we are the ones that control it, and we're not going to be subject to other outside entities pulling strings and changing things for us or our customers. So, this is a prepaid lease that is different than a lease. Revision does also offer a traditional lease that we have made our own by taking away the ways that traditional solar leasing has sometimes been somewhat predatory on homeowners with different fine print. So I think it is helpful to compare both a prepaid lease to a lease. That long-term 25-year lease, $0 upfront, you get a consistent flat monthly payment for 25 years, and you never own that system on your roof. You can buy it out, but the product's really not designed for it. The prepaid lease is designed for you to buy that system out, and it happens automatically at that first possible time that it's allowed via IRS rules, so that the ownership flips to the homeowner after year 5. And it's really designed to leverage that tax credit to give you, as a homeowner, an upfront discount via a prepaid lease. So those are the two options on the right, those two rightmost columns, lease and PowerPath. You can also see we still offer solar investments with cash or loan. They all lower electricity costs. They're all good for the planet. There is differences in some of these other areas, and depending on your situation and goals and budget, we will talk to you about the different options that are best suited for your particular situation. It's really what our mission-driven company is here for, to educate you and to help you figure out for your situation, your life, your future energy costs, what is the best route to begin your energy transition. Maybe you've already begun it with heat pumps or other electrification. We want to help you continue down that path. And the other cool part here is that, with Revision PowerPath, you may be able, or at least it may be a way for you to get into the clean energy generation and then have additional funds to put toward electrification in other parts of your life. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Q&A.
Thank you so much. Two questions. One of them is, let's see, what happens if a homeowner sells their home in year 5?
Great question. If you sell your home after you have taken ownership of the system, so after month 61, then there's no additional complexity because you own the system on your roof. There's no other entity that has any claim to it. If you are trying to sell your home before year 5, there is additional complexity, and the simplest route is to get the new buyer to sign the agreement. You have already prepaid that lease, so it's not much of a financial obligation for the new home buyer, but it is an agreement that they would have to sign, and Revision would help educate them on that if that is necessary. Or you can buy out that lease before year 5, but it is not set up to do that. So that is one of the important things to think about as you're considering which type of payment structure for your solar investment.
Great.
TL, sorry, Caitlin, could I
Please,
quickly add
Ben.
one thing to that, just a slightly context around that? Because it's a great question. Um, what's happening here behind the scenes is that the IRS has certain rules and regulations, of course, about how a tax credit can be claimed. And the entity that's owning it, that is getting the tax credit, Rail, Revision Amicus Leasing, has to have possession for it for 5 years. And if they don't, then it's not considered a tax credit that is viable. And so essentially what happens if Rail doesn't own it for 5 years is Rail can't take advantage of the discount that Rail is then passing on to the homeowner. So it does make for some very kind of strict rules around year 5. If the homeowner wants to take possession of it before year 5, it's not favorable. It's not a good deal. It's not a good cost experience. It's really designed for the homeowner to take possession of it as soon as possible. Literally, we call it month 61, right? As soon as possible, but not before month 60. So we have real significant conversations with anybody who wants to do PowerPath, where we explain that this is really important. So if they do plan on selling their house in the first 5 years, they know they're going to be, for instance, selling it to a relative or passing it on in the family, in which case the transfer of the lease is very easy rather than going into a big real estate transaction where that might get more complicated.
Great. Thanks, Ben. NTL. Can you estimate a per panel price range? You might want to pivot to cost per watt.
Yeah, I mean, per panel, you're usually in for a fully installed system. I think this is not exactly the best way to think about solar because there's, significant fixed costs to installing a clean energy system and integrating it into your house and all of the, aspects that go into such a system. But it does end up being usually somewhere between like $1,000 and $1,500 per panel, unless you get into sort of very small or very large systems. it's generally in that range.
Great. Two more that I have for you. One is, can customers with existing systems expand through PowerPath?
Expansions are eligible for PowerPath as long as they are electrically separate so that we can meter them separately, which we can do in the majority of cases. There's also a 5 kilowatt minimum for PowerPath. So that's
Mhm.
about a 12 panel system. So if you're trying to add fewer than 12 panels, just on an existing inverter, then PowerPath is not the right financing program for you. But if it's more than 12 panels, then it is certainly a good option to consider.
Are there applicable equipment manufacturers for the PowerPath program and limited by the IRS law?
Great question. Yeah, that was sort of in a sidebar that I skimmed by here, but it is domestically manufactured equipment for this PowerPath financing program. So that is um, SILFAB or SEG modules is what we are currently using that are domestically manufactured. N-phase microinverters and Iron Ridge um, rail and mounting equipment on the roof.
I want to add to that for one sec, TL, if that's okay. Um, the concept of domestically manufactured is not something that Revision or any manufacturer really gets to kind of say. This isn't a marketing idea. It isn't Silfab saying we're domestic. There are incredibly strict rules and it comes down to percentages. What percentage of this thing, the raw materials that go into it, come from the United States as opposed to other entities? Do any of them come from entities that have been labeled by the United States government as foreign entities of concern, which is a whole other thing? It's a very complicated and intense system of metrics to get to this thing that we call domestic content. It does not mean that every single component of a specific panel was necessarily made inside of the United States of America, from the original steel or the original copper or the original glass all the way through to the finished product. So just when people think of it that way.
Yeah, it is incredibly complex, the current state of the solar industry and equipment procurement. And we are trying to make it as simple and straightforward and transparent. But it is very complex.
Great. That is all the questions we have. Is there anything else TL or Ben you would like to add?
I mean, I'll just say generally, um, solar is just such an incredible investment, and we're so happy to have helped so many Mainers go solar, and really glad that we've been able to put a lot of time and energy into creating this program to creatively address the current situation of solar tax credits so that we can offer this program. And we expect that the majority of our customers will use this Amicus PowerPath prepaid lease, because it kind of is the best of both worlds. Um, so we look forward to talking further about your options if you're interested in learning about what a solar investment could do for you.
I would just add that this is a really exciting time here at Revision, having worked very hard with the Amicus Solar Cooperative to create this prepaid lease option. Um, Historically, in the United States of America, the concept of leasing solar has developed a very poor reputation, and for good reason, frankly. There's been a lot of misconceptions, a lot of bad sales practices, all from kind of the big national companies that have for a long time dominated this field, right? You have to be a big company with a lot of financial backing and venture capital to even enter into the world of how do you support this financing model. With the end of the residential tax credit, but the keeping of the corporate tax credit, um, Amicus, which is full of really some of the highest quality local solar installers in the United States, really put an amazing amount of work and effort into building an ethical lease product, right? Amicus is a B Corp, they're a co-op, they're member owned. You know, Revision is 100% employee owned cooperative. You know, we have very serious missions, and leasing has never been taken on by that team, by that entity who are trying to say, let's use this tool, but use it in a new way that's never really been tried before in the United States. So it's a really pretty exciting time here, even though it's complicated and difficult to figure it out. We're pretty psyched about it.
Great. Thank you so much. I put some contact information in the chat. You can find us at revisionenergy.com or reach out via hello@revisionenergy.com, and I will route your email to the person who needs to speak with you. So thank you to y'all. Thank you, Ben. Thank you to folks who joined us today. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks a lot.